Morning, members. We have attained the quorum. I now call the meeting to order. Before I invite officials and deputations to come in, I'd just like to have a word with members about the arrangement. There are 40 deputations and 91 individuals attending today's meeting. As per last week, there are going to be 4 segments, each lasting for about 2 hours. 1:15 to 2:30 will be the lunch break. During each session, I'll be inviting the deputations or individuals to speak. Each will be allotted no more than 3 minutes to speak. And thereafter, the floor will be thrown open for questions. And then I'll be inviting the administration to make a brief response. Any comments? If not, then shall we invite the deputations, individuals to join us, and government officials.
First
of all, I'd like to welcome government officials, deputations, and individuals. The list has been tabled before members. I don't propose to introduce them one by one. In this public hearing, we have invited Secretary for Development, Mr. Paul Chan. Thomas, will you tell us why Mr. Chan is not here today? Good morning, Chairman, members. Mr. Chan is has been on a trip to Shanghai. He'll be coming back this afternoon. Now, I'd like to invite the deputations. Each speaker will be given 3 minutes to speak. To facilitate today's proceedings, we have a timer and a buzzer for this purpose. I'd just like to remind the deputations and individuals that your submissions and oral presentation will not be protected by the Legislative Council Powers and Privileges Ordinance. Cap 382, there will be no protection under this particular ordinance. First of all, Mr. LUI Kwok-fu. Distinguished fellow villagers, fellow citizens, in relation to this Northeast NT development, 150,000 people will be given homes. In Hong Kong, we have a really nice picturesque scenery. We have the highest, the island with highest density, Ablay Chao. It is 1.3 square meters with a population of 90,000. Now, to provide homes for 150,000, we only need 2 hectares of land. 2 hectares of land. So this 3/4 of the land there, or 6 hectares, can be excluded from the planning. 古洞拼車 Fan Lane North are included. Now, there are many people who said that not many people are objecting to this. In Gudong, there are a few thousand. If you spray machine gun at them, only a few would die. So many people attended the consultation exercise asking the government to withdraw the plan. And people have to be uprooted. And there are villages who are objecting to this, and they have to object to this in a vehement manner. I mean, are we prepared to pay for this project with human lives? In Netherlands, they produce agricultural products. They rank third in the world, but the land is being urbanized. In the past decades or so, they have been reclaiming land in order to strike a balance with nature. In Hong Kong, our development is not diversified enough. Everything is skewed in favor of the vested interest. Why is it that we cannot retain agriculture and rural landscape in Hong Kong? Land in Hong Kong will be disappearing. This land in Hong Kong is not developable land. It is the last remaining agricultural land that cannot be touched. Why do we have to develop it and uproot the villages? Last week, there was Mr. Zhong who said that they are prepared to suffer and continue being farmers. Why do they have to be got rid of? And we're sharing the same root. I believe that Hong Kong is a just and fair society. People with conscience will be on the side of the villages and the farmers who are victimized in the process. All right, next, Father Anthony Chang. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Myself and the Christian group believe that the government does have the sincerity to resolve housing problems in Hong Kong. I hope that people will support the government initiatives. Also, I urge the government officials to open up their heart and be sensitive in their response to all these issues. And they should be more creative. With creativity, there will be innovation. The Northeast NT new development areas provide us with a good opportunity for innovation. Back in 2004, the LCSD put forward this nursery program, this community gardens project. People are given the opportunity at different locations to try their hands on farming. And through these activities, they can be there is a sense of greenery fostered in them. Because of the short space of time, the effectiveness is not good enough. And it would take a more organized farm for this to be effective. And this is precisely the kind of innovation that this development should consider. The existing program is really getting outdated. This LCSD program is really backpedaling. The 21st century planning should focus on farms, and that is a must going forward. The latest farming technology can absorb the presence of carbon dioxide, and this can avert disasters. But not many people are prepared to engage in farming. I think if people are indeed interested in farming, we should give them every incentive that we can. And this is the new paradigm that we should adopt in the 21st century. Also, we should consider the facilities for farming. We have to preserve and retain the established farms in Hong Kong. And this is an innovative consideration. The provision of foodstuff to different districts and the opportunities for people to engage in farming would enable people to know about the advantages of farming, and that would provide a very good spiritual nurturing. In particular, the primary students all over Hong Kong. Is my time up? Thank you. Thanks very much. Next, Mr. Vincent Ng, Hong Kong Institute for Urban Design. Chairman, members, I am speaking on behalf of the Institute of Urban Design. In order to maintain long-term development and meet the housing need, the Institute of Urban Design is in support of this Northeast NDA's development. There should be a long-term housing strategy and make provision for land availability. Now, we are gratified to see the development, but there are certain areas that I'd like to see improvements on. First, the walkability. When designing the walkway and the cycle tracks, too much emphasis on the vehicular traffic at the expense of pedestrians. The encouragement of walking to get to different transport networks would certainly improve the quality of life. Second, density and the height of buildings. We believe that there should be different height, the stepped height design. If we restrict the plot ratio and building height without any variation, then we're going to see a lot of wall-like buildings. The government should split up large supersized land into small parcels. That would avoid the large-scale shopping malls. I mean, the high-tech, podium-free kind of development is something that can be considered. Space would be very important in urban area. We hope that the design of buildings should be diversified. If on a vast tract of land we provide the formulaic kind of buildings, like the standardized public housing, then the whole thing would be really monotonous and drab. The mixed use of land and commercial development would be beneficial to the residents. We should encourage more small-scale and large-scale development in tandem. Finally, I'd like to say something about land use. Low-density development cannot utilize the potential of the land. The government should, without impinging on the visual element and transport, consider increasing the density. The people of Hong Kong are concerned about agricultural land. The rural areas can be preserved so that the stakeholders can be allowed to carry on with the farming for livelihood. All right, thanks very much. Mr. Lau Chen Hoi, Concerned Group of Long-Term Housing and Development Scheme. Chairman, I am representing a concerned group of young people. I'm giving a voice to the young people. The Northeast development can provide more job opportunities and housing opportunities. For those young people who are disoriented, this development would have really a lot of implications on them. I think we have to be concerned about the Northeast NT people. Second, this development should be for Hong Kong. Third, the development should be sustainable. Now, for the people in Northeast NT, the lifestyle should be respected. They should be rehoused in situ. The affected residents should be given priority for rental housing. For the farmers in this project, a certain farmland has been reserved, but the location, the quality of land, and all the facilities are not really good enough for them. So our concerned group hopes that the government would reallocate the farmlands and develop productive, economically effective farming, like organic farming. And we can also revitalize the declining farming industry in Hong Kong. There should also be an element of Hong Kong land for Hong Kong people. this project is intended to resolve housing problems, the government has to make sure that there would be 100% Hong Kong land for Hong Kong people. The mix between public and private housing would also be important, because if we skew it towards too much towards one side, then it will create another Tin Shui Wai in Hong Kong. We have to make sure that there will be private housing that will be affordable by the people of Hong Kong. Not only should housing be developed on the basis of Hong Kong land for Hong Kong people, shopping facilities should also be on this basis. The formulaic kind of development is not good enough. We have to offer some rental assistance to small-time businesses, and this can be reserved for the people in the district. We're not trying to recreate a Times Square or Ocean Terminal in the northern district. And this is what I mean by Hong Kong land for Hong Kong people. Finally, sustainable development includes environmental, social, and economic dimensions. Now, for social development, we have to make it fair. We have to make sure that horizontally there will also be fairness as well. There should be cross-generational fairness. There should be more job opportunities and housing units for the younger generation. I hope that the government would bear in mind these 3 points in the development.
Mr. Lee Chiu-wei, I'm from Tin. I'm a non-indigenous resident there. 4 generations of my family have been living there. I have to stress that for the Rural Committee, 111 RC12 submitted by the organization does not reflect the non-indigenous people's views. The government should not simply liaise with the Rural Committee, which does not listen to our aspiration for no removal, no clearance. We oppose to the development because it's a waste of public money and it's going to demolish tens of thousands of families. I'm not going to talk about the other areas, Ta Kwu Leung and Ping Che. There, you're only going to have special industries and luxury housing, which are going to demolish many people's houses. And in that area, you do not have PRH, public rental housing. How can you say the project is for Hong Kong housing need? You may say there are special industries, but very few Hong Kong people know what you're talking about. Maybe it's a place for parallel goods businesses. For the luxury housing, do Hong Kong people really need that kind of housing? You are going to increase the job opportunities, but you do not have any data to support that. I think it is really a waste of money. Now in that area, we already have very active agricultural land. But because of government policies, many farmers have been driven out of the business. The most important thing is we have many committed residents. For those who want to leave, they have already left. We do not need you to put in lots of public money to develop the place. You simply have to resume the open open space car park, so people can farm. And if you do that, 10 years down the road, 30% of Hong Kong's food can be produced in this area. This is what I call sustainable development. Remember, inflation of mainland has already boosted the vegetable price a lot. We want to stay in this area not because we want to occupy the place, but because we want to keep our home. No removal, no clearance, and shelve the plan. Next, Ms. Wong-fat. I have to say that the paper 111 RC12 submitted by the Rural Committee does not reflect the views of all the non-indigenous people. The government keep putting forward lies. and is proposing to use public money, and by airing untrue API, you're going to roll out this project. Everyone wants to have a roof over his head. But how much land will be allotted to address the housing needs of Hong Kong people? And how much land is going to be allotted to build luxury housing for speculation of property? How many flats, public units can you provide to Hong Kong people? This project is one for integration between mainland and Hong Kong. We know the land has been purchased by developers to build luxury housing. The housing will be for wealthy people. So how much land are you going to use to build housing for ordinary Hong Kong people? The Secretary of Development is involved in subdivided flats projects, and also our CE is involved in UBW projects. Step down and shelve the plan. Mr. Tam Tai Shun, Dixon Tam. Now, in recent years, Hong Kong people show more concern towards the food. Food comes from faraway places like Beijing and Ningxia. Because food has to be transported from a long distance, so it has to be preserved by chemicals, and it will boost carbon footprints. Hong Kong people have to pay for very expensive food from the mainland, so they now think about producing their own food. Farmers in Hong Kong want to produce food for Hong Kong people. For these farmers, they need farmland. It's a pity we have land, but no farmers. But sometimes in other places, we have farmers, but no farmland. In fact, Northeast New Territories is a good place for farming development. We propose to conduct farmland value survey across the territory and to grade the quality of our farmland. For those high-quality farmland that should be allotted for agricultural use. Criteria should be water source and sunlight. You should also consult the local farmers. Once you get hold of these data, you can have better planning for that area and the nearby area and strike a balance between development and agricultural development. For the NENT project, you will only keep fragmented agricultural farmland. You may propose some parks. Now, under these circumstances, we propose to you to have farmland or to reserve land for community farming to provide sustainable development. In that case, you can keep the agricultural culture of the area and to produce space for activities for these people to produce quality food. So I urge the administration to put more thought to agricultural development. Speaking on behalf of my organization, I urge you to have more farmland and to have community farming. Next, Mr. Chen Pak-wei. Good morning, Chairman and members. From Ping Chair, Taku Leng. My family has been living there for 5 decades. We've been farmers there, and we get up very early and to work. Now the produce will be wasted because we are subject to the influence of weather, the elements. But we like this lifestyle. We are sure our vegetables are healthy and of good quality. It's clean and safe. So we're proud of this kind of lifestyle. Over the past few years, the price of our vegetables keeps falling, but we're very happy to put in more resources. In the recent years, we switched to organic farming because we want to provide more choices to Hong Kong people. But the efforts will be wasted very soon. Even before the start of the NENT, well, before that, we did not know about this project. But once it's announced, the landowners came to get back the land. Even when we have already farmed the land is fenced up. So we see that we have unhealthy oil in Hong Kong. So how come you do not reserve a piece of farmland for local farmers? Our farming, or in terms of our labor division, is very detailed and very modernized, and it's very rare for you to see such cases in Southeast Asia, Southeast China. How come you are taking all these away? You're proposing to have special industries in the area. We don't know what it is. Some may say it's for goods inspection. That's the government saying. But I'm in the trade. I've been in the trade for 10 years. In recent months, my company sought another piece of land for expansion. Within a week, they were able to do so because the development developed industrial estate. So in this plan, are you going to turn our place into another cyber port or Bel Air? You are going to remove the homes of tens of thousands of people, and you're going to, and you cannot do the gatekeeping for Hong Kong farming. Some politicians may like to ask for some advantages from Beijing. So are we going to allow them to do this and sacrifice our interest? Next, Ms. Chen, Mei Yi. Good morning. I have to stress, Takulang Rural Committee submitted 111 RC 12. But this paper does not reflect the views of non-indigenous residents. Good morning, once again. I am from Takulang, Pingche, Yun Ha village. I've been living there for 30 years, and I have 3 siblings. We work in the urban area, but we live in Takulang. Transportation is not good, but we love our home. My elder sister was married and she has her own family, but still she lives in the area. She has her own family now, and she's not worried that her children go about in the village because we have a very harmonious community. We know everybody in the village. I am from a farming family. We grow organic food. When I was young, I did not like this industry because my parents had to work all the time and they did not have time for me. But exactly because of that I later came to know that farmers rely on themselves. We are self-reliant, and it is something good. That's why I love this piece of land more, and I really treasure the resources we have. As I've said, my parents are farmers. They've been doing that for 40 years. They are on indigenous villages, but they are contributing to the community. Because of this project, our land will be resumed. Have you thought about our parents? They have been on this piece of land and contributed a lot to the piece of land. They have worked so much for their own homes, but then the homes will be demolished very soon. Now the government is supporting property development. They may propose agricultural rehabilitation, but it's very difficult for us to get a piece of land because most of the land will be for luxury housing. If we were able to get a piece of land, piece of farmland, arbors, drainage system, irrigation system, all these will have to be started from scratch. It's not easy for our parents. We lack long-term policy. Government says it would like to develop organic farming, but our land will be resumed. My father told me we should be self-reliant. We should not depend on other people. My parents are still capable of farming. They still have the strength. How come you are taking away their land? Shelve the plan, no removal, no clearance. Next. Originally we had Mr. Man, but now we have Ms. Chok in place for him. Good morning. From Taikoo Ping Chair. I have to stress that the submission by the Taikoo Rural Committee, paper number 111RC12, does not reflect the views of all the non-indigenous people. Who did the government consult? Just the indigenous residents. It's only in mid-August that we came to know about this project, but at the end of August, the public engagement exercise, stage 3, already came to an end. We're not asking for compensation. This plan is not for Hong Kong people. The developers are going to take all the land. The government says resources are lacking, are limited. How come they are building luxury housing? How come even before you roll out the scheme, you already air the API, the advertisement? Shelve the rubbish plan. Next, Mr. Chairman Wai. Good morning, Chairman and members, deputations. Good morning. I've been living in Ping Chair for 3 decades. Why do I live there? Because 3-4 decades ago, my dad responded to the government's calling and moved to Ping Chair from Sham Shui Po. He became a farmer. At the beginning, we raised pigs and we grew vegetables. Now, decades ago, the government called on people to move to the new territories to be farmers. Why? Because it was just after the war and we had lots of immigrants from the mainland. There was a drastic increase in population. That's why we needed lots of food supply. So the administration urged people to be farmers, to produce food for Hong Kong people. Now decades have gone. My family, my parents are still working really hard to produce food to Hong Kong people. Over the years, we had difficult times. Because of environmental protection ordinance, we could not raise pigs anymore. And we are subject to the elements. But then we cannot blame anybody because of the weather. We suffered from flooding. And I'm sure you learned from the news that when there are storms, people would have to climb on rafts because the land would be flooded in North New Territories. And we suffer from pests. Still, with all these difficulties and challenges, we haven't given up on organic farming. Why? Because we believe, apart from financial and economic development, apart from all these monotonous development, Hong Kong needs diversified industry. We need primary industry, not just service-oriented industry. We need farming so that we can protect, so that we can ensure we have sufficient food and we can have our own food source. Now, as said, food comes from a long way away. That leaves us with a high number of carbon footprints. We want to have green environment, so can we cut down on carbon emission? Many people say we need to have development. Yes, that's right. But what sort of development? We can have agricultural development. So we can have diversified industries to provide different jobs to Hong Kong people so that they can have a choice. They can choose to be farmers. Thank you. Next. Ms. Chipui Kwan. Members, deputations, chairman. PE3 was rolled out in June this year, but from the consultation, it seems that they haven't thought about agricultural development over the past 20 years. There is a decrease of 30% in terms of agricultural development.
40,000 hectares of land has been assembled by property developers. They have not been developed and used to their fullest potential, and it directly and indirectly destroys the natural ecology. In the latest proposal, in Kutong North, Fanlei North, Pingche, and Takoleng, 98 hectares of farmland will be included in the NENT proposal. The farmers who have been hardworking and the non-indigenous people have to be removed from their homes. Farmland has good natural resources. Apart from producing food, these farmlands bring a tranquil environment to the villages and can balance the ecology. But then farmland has become less and less. The size has been decreased. We really need to look at whether we have not been properly making plans for our farmland so that the farmland cannot be put to diversified uses, like putting and protecting the environment and sustaining the economy and so on. So local farmland produces low carbon agricultural produce and brings economic benefits. It creates jobs and brings vitality to the labor market. Industries like food processing, transport have also been boosted. Also, it generates cultural activities, and people can come to learn about the food supply chain and the people's health, how it relates to the nature. Also, cities worldwide have this self-sustaining food supply indicator, so that it can reduce the fluctuations in food prices so that people of different strata can find the food affordable. If farmland is going to continue to be decreased and the agricultural industry is dwindling and we have to rely totally on imports of food, and not in the near future, Hong Kong people will be forced to buy high-priced food without a lot of nutrition. Because of this, farming is a goal in developing a sustainable community. So I suggest here that we should retain our existing farmland. On behalf of the foundation, I urge the government to formulate and implement a long-term land development policy. Ms. Zhang Laifeng, next. Chairman, members, good morning. I'm from the Green Group in Choi Yun New Village, and I'm also one of those affected by the express rail link, the villages. Today, I just want to share our past experience and how it relates to people in NENT. I think we are going through similar experiences. I just want to share my experience to show my support for them. The Hong Kong government said that it's very people-oriented in developing its policies and respects public opinion. Are they talking about a small group of people only, the rich, or those in power? For those who are adversely affected, they are usually most neglected, most not given the proper respect. For people in Choi Yun Village and NENT, our homes have been devastated, but we are often the last to be notified. Is this a respect of public opinion? Is this what they call people-oriented policies? I hope the government can really think about this. For a major development project like this, when they are doing public consultation, shouldn't they notify those affected in the very beginning? in these two plans. Who are the people most affected? They are those who have lived in the NT for several generations, the non-indigenous people. How come that our interests have been sacrificed all the time? The government seems to be neglecting the interest of the minority group, those who are the weakest in the community. In a fair society, why is it that their interests have to be sacrificed to give way for the so-called big interests? So I hope the government and the general community can really think carefully why a decision has to be made like that. In Wai-chuen village, our interest has been sacrificed. What have we achieved? This express rail link, which Hong Kong people don't really need. And it's all for the Hong Kong government officials. When they go to Beijing, they can tell the leaders that, wow, this rail link project has been completed. But what about us? We have been relocated to this new site. We moved in last May, and it's now been a year and a half. But the site is really very dilapidated, and the construction works have not commenced. A lot of people had the misconception that we have been well resettled. That's not true. So that's why I come out here today to support any NT people to insist that their homes that there is no removal, no clearance for their homes. Next, Mr. Hao Kwok-chai. Chairman, members, good morning. I live in Ting Kwong Village in Shaanxi. The place that I live in is not included in the development plan. But we are also facing this problem of the property owners resuming our land. The aim, as stated by them, is to tie in with the NENT development plan for the building of this luxury flats community. Our Ping Kong village is not a standalone example, but because of this NENT development project, a lot of property developers are resuming land in a bid to develop luxury housing. The customers for these luxury flats are really the mainland rich people. The government has been emphasizing these days that there has been an acute shortage of land supply. But then why is it not putting an emphasis on this phenomenon and using a lot of land to house a small number of people? For my project is 1.5 million square feet to house 2,000, 3,000 people. So this ratio is not reasonable at all. Another thing, in the NENT development plan, the public consultation, I think the government is just doing a window dressing job. They might consult the district councillors, but for people like us who have been our homes have been resumed by the private property developers, we have no way of finding out the redevelopment plan. They said they would give out compensation first and then resume the land later. They would try all means to force people out of their home because they have this excuse of developing these plots of idle land. But does the government really have regulations on how people resume land and how to make use of the idle land? Let me cite a simple example. We have these small pedestrian walkways on private land. If we are going to repair them, the landowners objects, and we have no way of carrying out the repair work, and we have no pedestrian walkway to use. And naturally, people will move out of these areas. Say if the elderly people have to walk by these pedestrian walkways. It would be very difficult for them. So in the NENT development plan, we think that regulations have to be put in place to tie in with the whole development plan. Next, Mr. Chan Kwok-lang. Chairman, good morning. I'm not an indigenous villager in Ping Kong. I am almost about to retire, and I moved in Ping Kong village 2 years ago. I was like a sort of outsider. When I saw what happened in the past 2 years, I've been witness to what's happening in the past 2 years. When I moved in, I felt very happy because I was born and bred in the Hong Kong urban area. And this is like a dream land for me because of its tranquility and very close to the nature. And a lot of people aspire for that kind of environment. When I moved in the village, after I moved in, I often go to a farm nearby, and they are producing the strawberries in organic farming. It's assisted by the AFCD. But unfortunately, towards the end of last year, the private property developers high-handedly resumed land in that area, and the landowners thought, well, the piece of land was very expensive, and the farmer was forced out, and the farm closed down, and then the farm became idle and a dilapidated piece of land. And when I walked near the entrance or the exit of the village, I saw that this piece of agricultural land, which used to be very vibrant, is no longer the case. And the farmers that used to adopt organic farming, and now they've been turned, they've turned to be idle land, precisely because the property developers high-handedly resumed the land and signed agreements with them, promising that a certain fee will be paid to them. Well, they made all sorts of exaggerations when they submitted their plans, and it's not. There are not real promises, I think, and they aren't obliged to realize their promises. So, if the government gives ways to property developers to resume land like that, then they are actually helping the property developers to destroy the land and affect adversely the environment of the villages. I think the government should seriously look into this. Why is it that the agricultural land can be turned to be idle land and without any protection from the government? Mr. Kwok-fu, NENT, is it a plan for the integration of Shenzhen, Hong Kong, or China, Hong Kong? When the Zhuhai-Hong Kong-Macau bridge was first constructed, it was aimed at providing convenience for the lorries and trucks. And as to whether it's selling off Hong Kong, time will tell. Landowners in the NENT will benefit from land resumption. They may earn a little, they may earn a lot. They are always stand to gain whether their land is being resumed. The land users in this piece of land, people who have just spoken, they are the most unfortunate group. My home was also destroyed. My mother was already 80 years old. Several decades ago, what happened was still fresh in her mind. There's no reason you should destroy people's homes without good justifications. You shouldn't destroy people's homes until the very last minute. In 2020 to 2030, 35, the land, the NENT can be put to use. And then there are also, at the same time, Hongshui-Kyu, the Lok Ma Chau Loop, and so on. The lands will be put to use. In the next decade, the land will be provided through redevelopment of the urban areas and scattered plots of land around the territory. Is it so pressing to develop NENT? I think we can do it, say, a couple of years later. I think the Development Bureau should present a blueprint for the next 30 years in developing Hong Kong for our reference and consideration. I think we should develop first the Loop and then Tung Chung. Hongshui-Kyu and NENT. It's really too early to say whether they should be developed. Outside the Victoria Harbour, if the development can be speeded up, then I think that can meet with the rise in population. I think there should be man-made islands in that plan. I think that the plan should be tabled or presented to the committee for its consideration. I think we should develop land first and then develop uninhabited plots, and then next the relatively less populated areas. Several days ago, Mr. Leung asked people to show him on the map which plots can be developed. There is this piece of land which is several hundred hectares in size. Well, you can go and take a look yourself later on. Next one, Mr. Zhang Shifai. Chairman, members, good morning. I'm from Shangshui Ping Kong Village. I want to ask, why is it that the government has to develop NENT? I think it is a warehouse for food supply of vegetables and foods for Hong Kong. Why do we want to destroy it at one go and destroy the livelihood of the farmers there? And this would be the second time I am being forced out by property developers in Lun Wo Hui, in Fanling. Over 10 years ago, I lived there and I was forced out of my home by the property developers. I am about to retire, and this is the second time that I'm forced out of my home. Well, the experience is so very bad. I fully support the people in NENT who object the government's resuming land in NENT for development at one go. There are too many luxury flats in Hong Kong already. Can we afford so many luxury flats? As we all know, they are purchased by people from outside. Will it do any good to Hong Kong's economic development overall? If too much investment comes into Hong Kong, it's just like it will be just a sort of transient phenomenon in boosting the economy. The investment can come in and investment can go out. And the worst scenario is that people will be suffering. We'll have the problem of negative assets. So I think the government should seriously consider giving back the farmland to our farmers so that they can still make a living through farming. We have green areas in Hong Kong, and we don't turn Hong Kong into a concrete jungle, posing adverse impact on Hong Kong's nature. That's all I want to say. The next one, Mr. Wu Wai-chuen. I am speaking on behalf of 21 and 26 Fanlang North. I would reverse the order. We'll start from number 26 to members have any views. If not, then we'll go by your suggestion. Who is going to speak? Miss Liu. Members, good morning. I'm from Washang Village. I'm Liu Meifeng. I have grown up in Washang Village, but you've got 3 PE exercises. for the NENT development project. But so far you haven't consulted us at all until at the end of July this year. The social worker from Lutheran Society, they said that the Wai-chuen villages have to be demolished and cleared. We've got only 7 households. Is it because we've got only 7 households that you didn't bother to notify us? That's not possible. We've never been notified by the government. It's not the government which notified us ultimately. It's the Lutheran Society. All the households have the surname Liu, and we've got relatives living there. Is it because we are not village houses that you don't notify us? You haven't consulted us at all. At the end of July, a social worker came to tell us, and then in August we met with government officials. Amy Zhang was there at the meeting, and then I learned about this demolition several days later. And then you posted a notice at the village entrance saying that our village was included. Is that sufficient? And then it rained the next day, and then the notice was gone. Why is it that we have not been respected? Have you ever thought about our feelings? You are going to demolish our village, and you are going to build low-density housing. Our ancestral hall is there. Everything we have is located there. You totally disregard our feelings. It's only after we've complained that you posted up this notice. You've destroyed our homes, and our whole clan has to go away, has to be forced out. And until this very moment, you haven't really asked us. Wai-chuen doesn't belong to Fanling North District. We've never thought that Wai-chuen village is really included in the plan. The consultation channels are like that. I really don't understand. Can the 7 houses of Wai-chuen village be taken out of the development plan?
Right, ladies and gentlemen, I'd just like to say something regarding this development. Fudei is a small village of high ecological value. We have 70% greenery. There are a number of fish ponds in the vicinity. Next. This is going to be the valley that will be zoned as nature conservation area. It is sheltered. It has a very, very good setting. To the east of Fudei, there is a pond. This is the pond, farmland, and an orchard. A lot of local birds and migratory birds are frequenting this place. This is the nature environment that has been there for ages. The government is going to raise it to the ground to reprovision the existing police facilities, the target practice center, and the driving center of the police. Let's not talk about whether we should go to so much money to reprovision the facilities. That there can be a lot of different choices, different sightings for these facilities. Why is it that they have to be sited here in this village and get rid of all these people for this purpose? The facilities are in conflict with the conservation area. The police training school, the driving school is to coach policemen how to drive, and it is also coaching policemen to do slalom and to do really maneuvering of the vehicles. They're making tremendous noises. The target practice center is also emitting enormous amount of noise. The birds would be scared to death. I mean, if anything, they would be scared away anyway. Now, if you look at Long Valley Nature Reserve is sandwiched in the north and the south by farmlands. One must realize that for the nature reserve to be preserved, we need to have a good environment. So I would suggest that this Phuc Tha village be kept to create a conservation zone. And this can become a composite reserve area together with Long Valley. And that would enable us to do a good job in terms of conservation. Mr. Chair Dat Yen. Good morning, members. We have the PowerPoints. I'm sure the members have the hard copies. On different occasions, we have presented these many times. Members who are concerned about the development would be aware of this. Let me show members the existing situation. Now, back in 1999, in fact, it was 1996 that the developers started resuming land. I mean, the environmental destruction started from that year. The state of destruction has been highlighted by some members, and the situation is pretty serious. We are bewildered as to why the developers got wind of this development so soon. There are about 20% tenants there. Some insist on no demolition, no clearance. Some are modestly asking for them to be allowed to stay till the end. 80% of them have moved out, taking the extra share payment. A lot of them were forced out. In June, the government said that the conventional land resumption approach would be adopted, but that expedited the forced eviction situation. Many villages feel that there is collusion between the government and the developers. The way people are evicted seems rather civilized, and they resort to these court warrants, and they are going. They're doing it by hook and by crook. I mean, time is very, very limited today. If given opportunity, again, I will explain further. By the end of September, we had a meeting with Henderson. I'm glad that some members joined us. The situation did improve a little bit. The government's position is very important. Secretary Chan, Mr. Paul Chan, said that the rehousing is going to be better than Choi Yun village, and we have been forced out. How are they going to be rehoused? Before 2017, there will not be any rezoning allowed by the planning department. Why do we have to be evicted? Now, the court litigation was classified as personal vendetta, and they said that they would not be involved. In fact, the Secretary for Development can easily allow us to stay a little bit longer. They can register us all in the village. It was suggested that near the park is there would be a rehabilitation of agriculture. Marsipo has a rich, fertile soil. Well, I save it till later then. All right, Mr. Lam. coming through. Chairman, honourable members, this Northeast Anti-Development is a shameless program with collusion between government and the developer. Donald Tsang packaged it as an infrastructure development, and the developers have been amassing loads of land, and they will be converted into residential dwellings. In Shekwu village, there is a new world cluster of development. Paling was completed in 2005 and has been lying idle. In 2008, the whole thing was converted into a development with buildings of 20 stories. In the whole process, were the developers tipped off about the development? Or is this project tailor-made for the profit-making developers? Since C.Y. Leung took office, he announced that this public-private partnership will be changed to the conventional land resumption method, or the CNTA. And then we heard a lot of talk about Hong Kong-Shenzhen unification, setting out Hong Kong, and so on. Is there any conspiracy behind this? Or some vested interests are not content with the situation, they're stirring up all this trouble? In 2008, since the first consultation to September this year, the latest consultation, we've been asking for restating the villages, rehabilitating the villages. The government really never talked to us. We heard all these APIs on TV, and we feel really bad. Every time we heard from Paul Chan trumpeting about this anti-Northeast development, those who are eligible will be rehoused into PRH, those not eligible will be given interim housing. I mean, we feel really bad about it. I think the LegCo should face up to this Northeast NTA development. We have to find out whether there has been any acceptance of advantage, any collusion between the government and the developers. Until the government has a comprehensive rehousing policy, all these shameless acts should be halted. Hong Kong people should not be polarized. Those affected should not be dragged through the mud. Okay, Madam Leung, Chairman, members. I am a villager from Tin Ping Shan village. This project is touted as people-oriented. May I put this to the honourable members? What do we mean by people-oriented? In Tin Ping Shan estate or village, the area circled red is the only area where the villages are congregating. We have high rises. We have Fung Kai Secondary School. About 20 years ago, the government raised the platform by 10 feet, and there is a housing estate and a playground being built. And we also have a deluxe residential development in the vicinity. The only way we can breathe fresh air would be from the northeast. In this development plan, our backyard will be blocked by these medium and high density residential buildings. I mean, we are going to be suffocated living right in the middle. In 2017, according to the administration, there will be a circular road cutting through the village. The worker will not get another way until 2027. Now, why is it that the government is so heartless? In order to facilitate their transport of construction materials, they have to build this circular road, and this is detrimental to our health. This road is passing right next to our village. In the phase 2 public engagement, the government talked about how the affected people would be rehoused or helped. But in phase 3 public engagement, we talked about being rehoused to Kutong North. We don't have the foggiest idea where Kutong North is. There is not a mention of any compensation whatsoever. So we strongly urge for the Tinpingshan area, the area circled in red, be included in the area. Paul Chan said that we're running out of land. The Tinpingshan villagers would be prepared to hand over the piece of land, but this has not been responded to. This circular route, we are at an advanced stage, and Tinpingshan will be developed at a very, very late stage. For this road to be built, I think the Tinpingshan village should be considered. 1/10 of the land should be reserved for Tinpingshan village or villages to rebuild our dwellings. All right, Mr. Wu Wai-hong, Chairman, members. Our centre has been serving the villages for about 2 decades. Over the past 20 years, we've witnessed a lot of developments. Many squatters have been cleared, and there were a lot of confrontations and objections and so on. Now, why is it that it has to end up like this? We've been mulling over this over the past 2 decades. From the newspapers, maybe we have to look up to China. In the mainland of China, they've amended the land management legislation, and this gives me some kind of inspirations. Now, the mainland legislation covers a couple of key points which are really food for thought in our future development. First of all, they emphasize broadening out the compensation methods. The affected villages would be given more options to choose from. In Hong Kong, we have only one option. If you ask the secretary, the planning department, if they get demolished, the standard reply would be means test, rehousing to PRH. But they don't really want that. Over the years, the government has been stuck with this one single option. In the mainland legislation, one of the considerations is that the affected villages should be given an opportunity to improve their quality of life. The villages would like to keep to the rural setting, but the government is rehousing them in PRH units. But the villagers are telling them that we don't want that. You may consider that this is an improvement, but we consider that this is deprivation. It's a deprivation of the rural setting, and they really want an improvement that they consider to be a really improvement. And they like the rural landscape. They don't really like high rises. Third, whether this is feasible is quite another matter. They try to make sure that the affected people would be involved. Now, there have been a lot of consultations, the rural committees, the village bodies, all the stakeholders, but the villages were not covered in the consultation exercise. Now, the Wai-chuen villages said that it wasn't until the 1st of August that they saw a poster outside their village. They also have the element of in situ redevelopment. The indigenous villages will be displaced from where they have planted their root in, and I think that there should be more consultations on the villages. They should be roped in to give their feedback, their input. Mr. Law. Good morning. I am not articulate enough. In 2011, the developers came to our village to resume land, and we were forced to move out. I'm not really articulate enough. I think this Northeast NT development is really in a similar category. They have a lot of farmland, and we were in a similar situation. We were born and brought up there, and I don't really want to see any forced eviction. The developers never run out of space for development. 天水圍、流浮山、洪水橋 They don't really have to pick Northeast NT. I'm not good at words. Indeed, the developers have so much land for development. 流浮山、洪水橋、山下、石礦 village. That's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
請賴榮蘭女士。
各位好。
Miss Lai Wing-lan, good morning. I'm from Takulang. I was born and raised there, been in the place for 4 decades. Takulang Rural Committee is very famous. It's been in under a spotlight. Now the government announced this development project, and you no longer see Takulang in the weather forecast in one of the TV channels. Why? Once the NENT project was announced, we no longer see Takulang being reported in the weather forecast. I just want to know why. Mr. Chen Chongming. I'm not from Pingche, but I don't know why in the document it says I am. Now I would like to speak on behalf of the residents. Takulang Pingche Rural Committee submit RC 111 RC 12 to LUI, but the paper does not reflect the views of non-indigenous villagers. I'm here to let members know my views about NENT project and Hong Kong's development. I don't know whether you've been to these places. Even if you did, well, you were just there to have a look. I've been there, and I tried the vegetables they grew there, and I spent some time with the residents, the villagers, to get a sense of village life. So how come you only have in mind to turn the villages into a city? That's because you think Hong Kong is just a city, a town. Your impression of Hong Kong is that the city is full of high-rises. Is it what we are left with today? How come we only have PLH, public housing, indigenous houses, and illegally built basements in our town? How come we only get a job in town? How come we cannot grow our own vegetables and raise our own animals? How come you deny people the chance to be self-reliant? Of course, the policymakers would not like that. Now you can fly to other places and get away from urban life. You live in low-density housing. You have a choice because you're wealthy. But we're not asking you to give us more choices. We're just asking you to let us have our own lifestyle, our current lifestyle. We want to keep to our places to do what we like there. This is just a humble wish. We're asking for the same, what we have now. We have our own farmland. We're not asking to be rehoused to PRH or to have agricultural rehabilitation. We're asking for no removal, no clearance, but I think we're just wasting our breath here because government officials do not understand grassroots people. We are asking for no clearance, no demolition, and shelve the whole plan. Next, Ms. Wong. Lawmakers, deputations, Chairman, good morning. I want to raise 3 points, which are about greening or greenery. Countryside, new territories. We would like to have low carbon emission, to have greening. I very much hope we can keep the farming activities in the new territories. Even if you want people to be rehoused, just give them some place to farm. Now we have to ask ourselves how we can support low carbon emission, how we can do a bit to reduce global warming. Existing trees, we keep planting trees over the years. When we have new housing developments, you plant some trees at least, but I hope you will plant the right kinds of trees at the appropriate places. One strong suggestion is for you to have proper management. Sometimes you engage management officers which neglect this point. For example, this year we had a typhoon number 10 hoisted, and many trees fell down, which obstructed the traffic, and many people were injured. It shows you did not foresee the possible dangers of these trees 10 to 20 years ago. In fact, these trees are potential dangers which will injure people. So I hope the administration and the tree management office will do a good job and properly manage the trees. We see so many changes in NT. Maybe we will see a reduction in Greenland there. Of course, we have to pay attention to urban planning, but I would like to suggest to you to have planning culture so we can release some urban space. We have over 100 villages and rooftop of private blocks. How come we do not make use of these places for farming, to have organic farming and to promote conservation? With this kind of education and training, urban dwellers will understand how come countryside folks love their home so much. Yes, thank you. Third row, Mr. Ip Man Kid. Good morning, Chairman. The former head of Central Policy Unit, Mr. Lau Shiu-kai, already raised his comments about this. How come you are proposing to have development in Pingche? Do you know where the place is? It's impossible for you to ask people living in the urban area in subdivided flats to move to a remote place like that and have a life. The government says it rolled out 3 consultations. It's only at the last stage, the very last stage, that we came to know about this plan that our homes will be resumed. On the 22nd of September, the PE3 exercise was supposed to be held in a high school, but then later we understood that the high school would not accommodate so many people, and we were asked to go to the northern part of Shangshui. And you gave us just 3 days' notice about the change of venue. Why not held it in a sports playground? On the 22nd of September, I think over 10,000 people were there, not thousands. The government is being sneaky. People are asking you, how come you roll out so few PRH units? You say you can raise the ratio of PRH to up to 50% against the private housing ratio. NENT is not highly accessible. You say you will connect the place with rail. And Paul Chen says maybe the compensation amount will be raised to even higher than that the people got from Choi Yun Village. It seems that you are willing to discuss and compromise. So I'm asking you again, can you undertake to have no removal, no demolition? I have to tell you, my house was built 4 decades ago by my father. Because of this project, you are going to demolish what's left by my father, by my late father. Don't take away our homes just because you want to have development. That's all I have to say. Thank you. I open the floor for members. All right. Members who would like to raise questions, may I propose 3 minutes to each member, covering answers from deputations or government officials. So please be brief. We have 4 members, 5 in fact, waiting to speak. First, Ms. Emily Lau. Thank you, Chairman. I would like to thank the deputations for coming to Lashko to tell us their views about NENT project. Now, we sat a whole day to listen to deputations. We had over 100 people coming here this Saturday and last Saturday. It's regrettable that Mr. Paul Chen is not here. I would like our comments to be recorded so that the government can give our views serious thought, and when they come up with a decision, our views will be reflected fully. My question is for Mr. Wu Wai-hong, who is from Shekwu Lutheran Community Development Project. Now, we heard that people from Wai-chuen village did not know that they would be driven away. It's only at the very late stage that because of your help that they came to know that. Now, Mr. Wu, can you tell us when did you come to know about this matter, and how come you took the initiative to tell villagers and rally them? So, shall we follow the example of URA? That is, to gather social workers to collect local views whenever there are such developments. So did your center take the initiative to take up this role? And if you knew about it, how come you only intervened in such a late stage? Mr. Wu, over to you. Thank you, Chairman and Ms. Lau. In fact, over 20 years ago, we were invited by the government to serve the squatter huts community. And so, as soon as we came to know about the development of Green City over 10 years ago, we already told people in 3 villages about it. But for Fute and the others here, they are far away and beyond our service boundary. But then all along, we told the government that people there did not know about the project. So at the very early stage, we already told the administration that residents in those areas did not know about it. But then we realized the government did not take our views, take our suggestions. In fact, Fute now came to know in a very late stage the whole village would be demolished. It was us who told them about it. They were so shocked. Now, this development is different from the Green City project. We wanted to notify all the villagers in Fanling North so that they can put forward their views. So in the end, we went into their village and notified those 7 households. Still, that's beyond our service boundary. But we would like the villagers to have a chance to air their views as well. That's why we took the initiative to do that. Once again, Mr. Wai-chuen is not with us. And the permanent secretary says the secretary is in Shanghai for a business trip. What sort of meeting is that? It's so important that he cannot be here to deal with anti-NE. This is the second time we hold this meeting. We have over 132 deputations here. So permanent secretary, is Mr. Wai-chuen in Shanghai to talk about how land can be resumed in a better way? Please tell us more. Now, in fact, the plan has been changed, has been amended. Is plain and simple, is a new town development to address the housing need of Hong Kong people. It will raise residential unit supply. I remember when Mrs. Carrie Lam was the development chief, she said that we should not repeat the mistake of Tin Shui Wai. That's why the PRH to private housing ratio, public housing should not be over 50%. Now we have villagers asking not to be removed, and they are being polarized against the entire Hong Kong. And my question is, have you solved everything, every problem, so that we will not repeat the mistake of Tin Shui Wai? For police facilities, actually we learned from the community that this is something of great concern. Planning Department, have you thought about this question? Secretary is in Shanghai for a meeting. His office already published a press release. Is a meeting between Hong Kong and mainland related planning and development units. As for ratio of public housing, we commissioned a university to study the development in Tin Shui Wai, and we were recommended that we should strike a balance between the supply of public and private housing. We try our best to do that. It's not the case that we will boost the supply of one kind of housing. We just want to maintain a balanced ratio to address public housing need. Mr. Chen, do you think your question has been answered? What do you think? I think my question will be followed up by other questions. That is the issue in Futengao. Next, Mr. Leung Kwok-fu. Mr. Wai-chuen is engaged in some socializing activities on the mainland. What's there to discuss there? How come the permanent secretary is not asked to go on the mainland? I think it's better for the Secretary for Development to stay here with us to listen to the deputations. They are taking land by force. Chang Leung-yu and Chow Ching-ai said for the better development of Shanghai, for a greater Shanghai, things in Shanghai had to be demolished. But I think they are just trying to work for a collusion between government and developers. Now, coming back to my question, the government says NENT project is here to address housing need of Hong Kong people. 20% of the land will be for PRH, 80% for private housing. Are you going to change the ratio? Permanent Secretary, are you going to change the ratio? Do you have any plans to change that? If that's the case, has C.Y. Leung lied again? Or he has changed it, but you did not know about it, and that's because Mr. Wai-chuen is too busy to go to Shanghai? That's why you don't know. Permanent Secretary, in paragraph In PE3, the ratio between public and private housing, in terms of the number of units, the ratio is 43% and 57%. Don't try to confuse it. Are you going to allot 80% of the land for private housing and 20% of the land for public housing? Is that the case? This weekend and last Saturday, we collected the submissions from deputations. We will seriously consider them, including whether more land should be released for subsidized housing. We will definitely consider that. That means you haven't changed that. C.Y. Leung said in front of Hong Kong people and in Lashko, when he was asked about UBW, he said he would have more PRH in new territories. But now you sit here and tell us that 80% of the land will be for private housing and 20% only will be for public housing. How can you solve the problems? Well, the Permanent Secretary has told you that he will consider the views. That means things have not changed.
Last Saturday, we said that in the first half of 2013, we will issue a report as to the proportion of land to be used, and we will give a reply on that. Are you going to retract the plan on the 20-80% ratio? Or is it going to be 50-50 or 70% for PRH and 30% for private housing? Mr. Leung, the Permanent Secretary, has said that in the first half of 2013, the administration is going to present the latest proposal, and then we'll know by then. The next one, Dr. Fernando Zheng. Thank you, Chairman. I thank the many villages and concerned groups to come here to express their views. We still have several sessions, and last week a lot of villages were here to you more or less express similar views. Your homes are going to be destroyed, a lot of farmland, green areas, and a lot of land with the input of several generations of your ancestors will have to be destroyed just because we want to develop or build more housing. Under the regime of Mr. Leung Chen-ying, the liar, I don't think people buy that kind of planning and idea. Today we are facing an even more ridiculous situation. You've told us stories about several generations of people in Hong Kong, and we are facing this obstinate and callous government. The business and government collusion here is also clear, and it's really the property developers who are going to benefit from the redevelopment plan. Now, in that case, those affected were the last ones to know about the plan. Villages on this piece of land are so helpless, and what this LegCo can do is only to provide a platform for you to air your views. Now, after the government officials have tolerated us for 2 weekends, and then we don't know what they're going to do after that, and then they will make a final decision on their own. I think this is totally ridiculous. In the 20th century, we're pursuing a green living style, and we aim to be self-sufficient in our food supply, and we want to protect a green way of life in the villages. But what we are doing here now is because we are giving way to the interest of property developers. We are destroying all these lands. And government officials say that they will listen to our views and then they will respond later. I think it's totally useless to ask them for a reply. All we can do is we will go on airing our views. But I think justice can be seen in the world. And I hope that we can pull together a powerful force to change the way it is today. I hope that you can continue to work out. I think justice will triumph in the end. Next, Mr. Kenneth Chen. Good morning, friends from the NT. It's a precious opportunity for us to meet with you over 2 weekends to have a direct dialogue with you. I think it's really too late to conduct these type of sessions here, and you were notified at the very last stage. Your lives, your history will be wiped out very soon. And you traveled all the way from the NT, and you talked to the government officials opposite you, and they didn't seem to be responding because they couldn't decide. I want to tell you a story. This person says that the history of housing in Hong Kong is progressing, is not retrogressing. I and my team are determined and resolved and committed to address the housing problem. I hope that you can work together with us to build this a good home for the 7 million people in Hong Kong and write a good history book on our housing. This is what Mr. Siwa Lang said. A home to 7 million people. The 7 million people obviously don't include you. You obviously don't belong to what he called the home of the 7 million people. He's looking and taking care of the interest of other people, and to serve the interest of what in his mind is the Hong Kong mainland integration. Your lives, your history are not mentioned even in what he says. I agree with Dr. Fernando Zhang. I think we should continue airing our views at whatever stage. I think because you live in such remote places, it's difficult for us to go there. I want to ask the government, you have spent so much money to roll out this API. Have you considered producing an API on the history, on their lives, to inform urban dwellers about their lives? The history that you are going to write is really intruding or adversely affecting the history of the people in NENT, and you are damaging their interest. Will you consider producing such an API? Permanent Secretary, please. Chairman, about this API on TV and radio. And that was produced because people don't have a concept of what the plan is about. So we try to use this as an information tool so that people can respond accordingly. Please stay calm. If you want to speak, please raise your hand so that we can first register you on the list. Mr. Lee Chiu-wai. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you for allowing me to speak again and raise a question. In the NENT plan, there is so much contention. And even yourselves, you said that there are a lot of amendments to be made. Do you think the consultation should start all over again? Why don't you do that? You are consulting the rural committees. They are not people with a vested interest. I think you're not doing a good job with your consultation. I think it should start afresh. Also, aren't you like thieves, stealing away the land from us, stealing our homes, stealing our farmland? you haven't explained adequately to those affected and to the Hong Kong people. You are using this brainwashing API to mislead everyone. You paint a rosy picture. Who thinks it's a rosy picture? Whoever hasn't really looked at the consultation paper will be misled. What are you doing here? You should explain clearly the content of the NENT plan. Is a really shameless plan, and you are deceiving people that you're going to provide comfortable residences for people. I think the API is a lousy one. The third P exercise has concluded. Are you going to ram the plan down our throat? Please answer me. Permanent Secretary, do you have anything to add in the third P exercise? We said that we are going to continue listening to people's views. As members said, we will jot it down clearly, the opinions we heard, and we will try to minimize the impact on of the plan and also those affected, and we will try to come up with a better resettlement and compensation plan for those affected. Any follow-up question? Our demand is no removal, no clearance. We don't want any compensation from you. Don't talk to us about compensation again. I think you are, I know that you are a recorder. You are just trying to repeat the words you said time and time again. Please consult us again with a revised plan. Don't waste our time. Don't you get my point, Permanent Secretary? What your response is utterly meaningless. Mr. Kwok-fu, thank you, Acting Chairman. Yes, the mic is on, right? The API was a remedial measure by the Development Bureau. It's so unfortunate that you are here to listen to us instead of Mr. Paul Chan, who's not here. You are going to get a condemnation from us. There have been problems with the consultation from the beginning. Tung Chung and the indigenous villagers have been asking me about how much land will be resumed. Why don't you tell them exactly what plots will be developed? It's good that you consulted the rural committees, but still a lot of the indigenous people are all at sea. And they come to me for an answer. I'm working in that district, and they are asking me where the third runway will be built and so on and so forth. You've got these problems with your consultation. This is something that you have to make a review of. And people are condemning you, and then you just came up with this API as a remedial measure. I really don't see why you are so keen to press ahead with the plan. I don't think it's necessary. Can you present a 30-year development plan or blueprint to see whether it's really necessary to develop NENT? What benefits will it bring to us? Of course, the administration will use the excuse of public interest to quell the voice of the local indigenous people. Ms. Emily Lau, do you have a follow-up question? Chairman, I don't know how you are hosting this meeting. Is it a time for members to ask questions? Well, it's good that the deputations get a chance to ask the questions. Yes, all right. The members who have said that they are going to ask questions have already asked their questions. Right. A lot of people are waiting for the second session to begin. Members, I agree with the way you handled the meeting, and once the members have finished asking questions, I think it's good to allow the deputations a second chance to speak so that they can adequately reflect their views to this meeting. So I really hope to use this meeting to listen more. The government has time and again held discussion sessions, and it's important that they really hear the views. And 80 to 90% of those present last week also said objected to the plan, and now for today's meeting, over 95% objected to the plan. I hope the Permanent Secretary will record it as such. For when local residents ask that the government should strike a balance when considering the demand of the local residents for no clearance, no removal, they should take heed of their views. They shouldn't use relocation of these residents to PRH as a way to relocate them. They really have this demand of no clearance, no removal. They don't want the NENT plan to take away their homes, to drive them out of their homes. In the government's decision-making process, I think the government is producing all kinds of tragedy, family tragedies. Chairman, I heard a lot of anger, and I saw tears streaming down local residents' eyes. You have real power. You have the real decision-making power. You should take care of the interest of the local residents. There is this option. There is this 170 hectares of golf course nearby, which the government can make use of. Why doesn't the government think about redeveloping that piece of land? You've got a replacement option, I think. Why do you have to demolish these people's homes? According to the HAB's regulations, you can just give 1 year's notice, and then you can take possession of that piece of land. Why are you doing such a bad thing as what you plan to do? Ms. Emily Lau said that those who wanted to speak have finished speaking, and because 3 minutes is not enough for the deputation, so I am giving them a second chance to speak. Chairman, of course, I understand that. If you state clearly that all the members have finished speaking, then you say that those who would like to speak again, please raise your hand, and that's a clearer way, a better way of doing it. I just want everyone to be aware of the rule of procedures. And because you've got this time limit, I just want everyone here to be clear about the procedures. Thank you, Ms. Lau. Well, time is almost up. I just want to say thank you for all the deputation representatives and individuals who are here to express their views. If you've got if you've got your speech written down, please give it over to our Secretariat so that we have a better understanding of your opinions. Now we've got some time, a little bit of time left. Does the Permanent Secretary have anything to add? I thank the members and the deputations for providing your valuable comments this morning. We will consider them carefully. We hope to minimize the impact on the local residents. We hope to take care of their needs as much as we can. Thank you, Permanent Secretary. Three other deputations would like to speak, it seems, but then we don't have much time left. So if they want to submit further opinions, they can do so through giving us a written submission. Time's up for the first session.